From Average to Extraordinary is not a story about being born special, getting lucky, or waking up one morning with unlimited confidence. It is a story about making a decision so many times that it becomes your identity, because the gap between average and extraordinary is rarely talent alone. It is standards, it is consistency, it is patience, it is focus, and it is the willingness to do what most people won't do long enough that your life starts to look different. Average is not an insult. It is a comfort zone. And the danger of the comfort zone is not that it hurts you today. It's that it quietly steals your future while it keeps you comfortable right now. Because average is what happens when you live on autopilot, when you keep choosing the easiest option, when you keep negotiating with your potential, when you keep saying, "I'll do it tomorrow," until tomorrow becomes a year, and a year becomes a habit. Extraordinary is what happens when you stop letting your moods manage your actions and you start letting your values manage your day. When you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start building momentum inside imperfect conditions. When you stop demanding that life become easier and start demanding that you become stronger, smarter, and more disciplined. Most people think extraordinary people have something that they don't. More confidence, more energy, more support, more time, more motivation. But what extraordinary people really have is a different relationship with discomfort. They don't treat discomfort as a sign to stop. They treat it as proof that they are stretching into a bigger life, and that is why they grow while others stay the same, because growth requires friction, the way fire requires oxygen. If you want to move from average to extraordinary, you have to stop romanticizing the finish line and start respecting the process, because the process is where your life is actually built. The early mornings, the late nights, the quiet practice, the repetition, the boring fundamentals, the days when nobody claps, the weeks when results are slow, the moments you feel like quitting and you keep going anyway. Extraordinary is not one big heroic act. It is small, disciplined acts done with integrity, repeated until they compound into a new reality. And compounding is real in every area of life. Skills compound, health compounds, money compounds, relationships compound, reputation compounds, confidence compounds, and regret compounds too. Average people often live as if their choices don't matter, as if one day off doesn't count, as if one more excuse is harmless, as if a little distraction is normal, but every small choice is a vote for the person you are becoming. And you do not become extraordinary by accident. You become extraordinary by election, by voting for the stronger version of yourself more often than you vote for the comfortable version. The truth is that average is easy to maintain, because it asks very little of you. It asks you to keep doing what you already do, to keep consuming more than you create, to keep talking more than you execute, to keep planning more than you practice, to keep reacting rather than leading yourself. And the world will happily let you stay there, because average people are predictable. They don't challenge norms. They don't require change. They don't demand growth from their environment. But the moment you decide to rise, the moment you decide to become more disciplined, more skilled, more focused, more intentional, life will test that decision, not because you are cursed, but because reality always tests what you claim, and the test is simple. Will you stay committed when it gets inconvenient? Because anyone can be consistent when they feel inspired. But extraordinary people are consistent when they feel nothing, when they feel tired, when they feel doubtful, when they feel behind, and that is why they build results that look uncommon. Because their effort becomes uncommon. One of the first shifts you must make is to stop seeing average as your personality and start seeing it as your current pattern, because patterns can be changed. Maybe you are average at your job, not because you can't excel, but because you haven't trained the skills that matter. You haven't asked for feedback, you haven't stretched yourself, and you haven't built the habits that make excellence inevitable. Maybe you are average with your health, not because your body is broken, but because your routines are inconsistent and your environment makes bad choices easy. Maybe you are average with your money, not because you'll never be stable, but because you haven't built systems for saving, learning, and earning. The moment you stop insulting yourself and start analyzing yourself, you take your power back, because self-hate is heavy and it keeps you stuck. But self-honesty is freeing, and it gives you a direction. Extraordinary. Starts with radical ownership. Not the kind that blames you for everything, but the kind that reminds you that your response is yours. Your habits are yours. Your standards are yours. Your focus is yours, and your next step is yours. You cannot control every obstacle. You cannot control every person. You cannot control every delay, but you can control what you practice and what you tolerate. And what you practice becomes your skill, and what you tolerate becomes your life. From average to extraordinary is often a journey of raising standards. Standard for how you use your time, standard for what you allow into your mind, standard for how you speak to yourself, standard for what you do when you don't feel like doing anything, standard for the kind of people you keep around you, and standard for what you will no longer accept from yourself. And here is the hardest part. The moment you raise your standards, your old self will argue with you, because your old self is built for comfort, and comfort feels like safety, and safety feels like survival. So your mind will come up with reasons to stay the same. I'm too tired, I'm too busy, I'll start next week, it's not the right time, I'm not ready, what if I fail? What will people think? And those reasons will feel logical, but they are often just fear trying to stay in control. Extraordinary people don't eliminate fear. They simply stop obeying it, and they understand a powerful truth. You don't need confidence to start. You need courage. And confidence is built after you start, by keeping promises to yourself until you have evidence that you can rely on you. Many people say they don't believe in themselves, but the deeper truth is that they don't trust themselves because they have a long history of abandoning their own commitments. And trust is built through reliability. If you want to go from average to extraordinary, begin by making smaller promises and keeping them consistently. Because your brain does not trust your dreams, it trusts your track record. And every time you follow through, you deposit into the bank of self-respect. Extraordinary is built from self-respect, because when you respect yourself, you stop settling for habits that weaken you. You stop spending your life on distractions that leave you empty. You stop living like your time is free, and you start acting like your future matters. You also have to learn to master the boring middle, because average people are addicted to excitement. They start strong, they feel motivated, they buy the notebook, they join the gym, they tell everyone their plan, and then when the excitement fades, so do they. Extraordinary people understand that the middle is where the transformation happens, where progress is slow, where learning is awkward, where results are not visible yet. And they build systems to survive the middle. Routines that reduce decision fatigue, environments that reduce temptation, schedules that protect deep work, and goals that are broken down into daily actions. This is why extraordinary people often look disciplined, but what you're really seeing is structure and identity. They don't debate every day whether to do the work. They are the kind of person who does the work. And identity is the strongest driver of behavior. If you keep calling yourself lazy, average, unlucky, or behind, you will behave like that label, so you must change the language of your identity. Not with fake positivity, but with purposeful direction. I am in training. I am building. I am becoming. I am the type of person who shows up, because the word yet keeps the door open, and the door must stay open if you want growth. From average to extraordinary also requires focus, because focus is the currency of excellence. Scattered attention creates scattered effort, and scattered effort creates scattered results. And then people conclude they can't, when the truth is they were never fully present. Your phone, your feed, the constant noise, the constant comparisons, the constant opinions, the constant drama. These things pull you into an average life because they keep you reactive, and an extraordinary life requires intention. You must choose to protect your attention like it is is your future, because it is. You must learn to say no to things that are not bad, but are not aligned, because extraordinary is not built by doing more. It is built by doing what matters more. You also need to understand that extraordinary is often lonely at first, not because you are better than others, but because your priorities will change, your schedule will change, and the version of you that people were comfortable with may no longer exist. And some people will try to pull you back, not always out of hatred, sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of habit, sometimes because your growth reminds them of what they avoid. Your job is not to fight everyone. Your job is to stay aligned, stay respectful, stay kind, but stay committed, because you cannot build an extraordinary life while constantly begging for approval. And approval is addictive, likes, compliments, validation, being understood. But extraordinary people learn to draw their power from internal validation. I kept my promise, I did the work, I improved, I showed up. Because external validation is unstable, but internal validation becomes a constant source of strength. One of the biggest reasons people remain average is that they treat failure like a verdict, and that creates fear, and fear creates avoidance. But extraordinary people treat failure like feedback, which creates learning, which creates improvement. They don't say, I failed, so I'm done. They say, that didn't work, so I adjust. An adjustment is a skill. If you take failure personally, you will either quit or you will hide. If you take failure professionally, you will learn and return stronger. From average to extraordinary is a journey of professionalizing your mindset. Instead of drama, data. Instead of shame, strategy. Instead of excuses, experiments. And when you approach life like training, you stop expecting perfection and start expecting progress. Progress is built through repetition, and repetition is built through patience. And patience is not passive. It is active endurance, the ability to keep doing the right things without immediate reward. Most people quit too early because they measure progress incorrectly. They look only for outcomes, and outcomes are delayed, so they assume nothing is working. Extraordinary people measure inputs: hours practiced, days consistent, workouts completed, pages studied, calls made, applications sent, skills trained, because inputs are controllable. And when you win your inputs long enough, outputs have no choice but to change. This is where the ordinary day becomes sacred. The day you do not feel special. The day nothing dramatic happens. The day you are not inspired. The day you are tired. Those are the days that decide your future, because extraordinary is simply average effort multiplied by extraordinary consistency. Think about the people you admire, the athlete, the entrepreneur, the artist, the student, the leader. What you're seeing is not a single moment of genius. You're seeing the result of thousands of small decisions repeated until skill became second nature. And you can do that too. But you must accept that the price of extraordinary is paid in advance. You don't pay after you succeed. You pay before. With time, with discomfort, with sacrifice, with humility, with the willingness to be a beginner, with the willingness to be seen trying. And being seen trying is hard because ego wants to be seen winning, not learning. But learning is the bridge. If you refuse to look foolish, you will stay average, because you will avoid the very reps that make you better. Extraordinary people are willing to be the beginner, willing to ask questions, willing to seek mentorship, willing to get coached, willing to receive feedback, willing to admit they don't know, because humility is not weakness. It's a growth strategy. And if you want to be extraordinary, you must also choose health as a strategy, not as vanity, because your body is the engine of your ambition. A tired body produces a tired mind, and a tired mind negotiates with excuses. So sleep becomes discipline. Nutrition becomes discipline. Movement becomes discipline. Hydration becomes discipline. And mental recovery becomes discipline. Many people think they have a motivation problem, but they have an energy problem. And extraordinary people build energy so they can execute. They treat their calendar like a weapon and their habits like armor. They also learn the art of recovery without quitting. Rest, breathe, reset, then return. From average to extraordinary is not a straight line. It's a series of returns. You will miss days, you will slip. You will lose momentum. You will doubt yourself. And if you interpret those moments as proof that you always fail, you will spiral. Extraordinary people interpret those moments as proof that they are human, and then they reset quickly. They don't turn a mistake into a lifestyle. They don't let one bad day become a bad month. They don't let one setback become a new identity. They return to the plan. They shorten the step. They simplify the routine, and they keep moving. The ability to reset is one of the most underrated skills in success because perfection is rare, but resilience is trainable. Another reason people stay average is they confuse activity with progress. They stay busy, they run around, they do a lot, but they don't do the high-impact work that actually changes results. Extraordinary requires prioritization. Identify the few actions that matter most and do them consistently. If your goal is career growth, the high-impact actions may be learning a valuable skill, building a portfolio, networking intentionally, communicating effectively, delivering reliable work. If your goal is academic excellence, it may be deep study sessions, practice tests, active recall, consistent revision, minimizing distractions. If your goal is fitness, it may be progressive training, consistent nutrition, sleep, and patience. Extraordinary is not mystery. It's method, and the method is built on clarity. Clarity means you know what you want and you know why you want it, because when your why is weak, your discipline will be weak. And when discipline is weak, you will stay average. Your why does not need to be dramatic, but it must be real. Freedom, stability, pride, service, family, impact, self-respect, faith, purpose. In tough moments, you will not rise to your goals. You will fall to your reasons. So build reasons that can carry you. And if you're wondering where to start by telling the truth about your current habits. Without shame, because shame makes people hide, but honesty makes people change. Ask yourself where your time goes, where your energy leaks, what distractions you tolerate, what excuses you repeat, what skills you avoid, what conversations drain you, what habits strengthen you, what habits weaken you, and then choose one change you can sustain. Extraordinary is not built by changing everything at once. It's built by changing one thing, then another, letting identity evolve slowly but solidly. Imagine two lives. One life where you stay average for the next 5 years, not because you are bad, but because you are distracted, inconsistent, and comfortable. And another life where you get serious, not perfect, just serious, where you choose one skill to master, one habit to build, one routine to protect, and you stay consistent. The difference between those two lives will be enormous, and the scary part is that both lives are realistic, and the deciding factor is your daily choices. From average to extraordinary is also a moral journey. It requires integrity, because success without character is a fragile win. Extraordinary people win in a way they can live with. They don't destroy their health to prove a point. They don't burn every relationship to chase status. They don't lie to get ahead. They don't cheat and call it strategy. They build a life they can respect because self-respect is a deeper success than applause. And here's the thing, you already know what you need to do. Most people do. The problem is not knowledge, it's execution. You don't need another motivational quote. You need a moment of decision. You need to stop treating your potential like it is guaranteed and start treating it like it is fragile, because potential can die. It dies through delay, through distraction, through excuses, through fear, through comfort, but it can also be activated, and it is activated by action. So choose action, even small action. Because small action creates momentum, and momentum creates belief. Belief is not something you wait for. Belief is something you build. When you work when you don't feel like it, you prove to yourself that you are capable. When you keep going after a setback, you prove to yourself that you are resilient. When you practice your skill consistently, you prove to yourself that you are improving. And the more proof you collect, the less you need motivation. You become self-driven. You become anchored. You become the kind of person who does not collapse when life gets hard. And that is extraordinary. Extraordinary also means you stop negotiating with the voice that wants comfort at the expense of your future. That voice will always exist. It will always have an argument. It will always offer you a shortcut. It will always whisper, skip today. But you don't have to fight it with emotion. You fight it with identity. That's not who I am anymore. And at first you may not believe it fully. But identity is built through repetition. So you act like the person you want to become until it becomes natural. You don't wait until you feel disciplined. You practice discipline. You don't wait until you feel confident. You practice courage. You don't wait until you feel focused. You practice focus. You don't wait until you feel worthy. You act with self-respect. And over time, your feelings catch up to your actions. This is how people transform. And make no mistake, you will be tested by boredom, by temptation, by slow progress, by criticism, by comparison, by self-doubt, and by unexpected problems. Extraordinary people are not immune. They are prepared. They build rituals that keep them stable. They plan their day. They move their body. They protect a deep work block. They review their progress weekly. They learn continuously. They simplify decisions. They keep their promises small but consistent, and they also learn to forgive themselves quickly, not to excuse poor behavior, but to avoid the spiral of guilt that leads to quitting. They treat mistakes as part of training, and they return. And returning is everything. The person who can return will always beat the person who needs perfection. So if you want to go from average to extraordinary, stop asking yourself if you feel ready and start asking yourself if you are willing. Willing to practice, willing to learn, willing to be uncomfortable, willing to be patient, willing to be consistent, willing to do the same basic things longer than your mood wants to, because the extraordinary life is built by ordinary actions done with extraordinary commitment. And one day, if you keep choosing it, you will look back and realize the change was not magic. It was method. It was not luck. It was labor. It was not talent alone. It was training. It was not a single breakthrough. It was thousands of small decisions that stacked up. And that realization will be one of the most empowering moments of your life, because you will understand that extraordinary is not something you chase outside yourself. It is something you build inside yourself, and then your life reflects it. So start now, not when everything is perfect, not when you feel fearless, not when you have more time, because you will never have enough time for a dream that scares you. Start now with what you have, where you are, as you are, and commit to becoming 1% better daily. Protect your attention, raise your standards, keep your promises, seek feedback, practice your craft, take care of your body, choose your environment wisely, reset quickly after setbacks, measure inputs, and stay in the game. Because average is a choice you make by default, but extraordinary is a choice you make on purpose. And if you make that choice long enough, you won't just reach extraordinary results. You will become extraordinary, not by being perfect, but by being persistent.